also, or no need?
Go on the group, I'll share on the...
Okay, I'll share it on the group. Hello everyone, I think the streaming is going live right now. Can you refresh, Mathilde? Today we have the awaited talk with our brother Asil about how to strengthen our vessel on many physical aspect, energetic aspect, so your channel becomes strong and open and connected. Give us a few seconds while we are checking the sound and the streaming on our Facebook page, and we're also streaming on the Crowdcast. If you are on Crowdcast, I think on Crowdcast not yet streamed. I can see right now. Apology for people on Crowdcast. Give me a few seconds. And we will fix it in a bit. Asil, I am sorry. Give me one more second for people in Crowdcast.
Sure.
You have to
Go
see
ahead.
my window here. I have many things open, and the
Of course.
YouTube still not open. Okay. YouTube. I don't know why the YouTube did not launch yet, and that will go to the Crowdcast. All right. All right, on Facebook, guys, give us a few seconds. Apology again. We are live on Facebook, but not on YouTube yet on Crowdcast, which is important because we have people waiting us in the YouTube. Okay, I found it. And here we go. We're going to send it to the Crowdcast. And the people on Crowdcast, they can watch with us. Swipe. A live talk with Asil.
How to strengthen your vessel.
And the mouse
I don't see
doing
them.
this. Do you remember last time when mouse was not clicking? It's doing the same thing now. I don't know why it's not clicking right now.
The energy.
Okay, I need you.
So
I
it's
need
not
you.
live yet. I don't see any live yet, George. I don't see live.
Crowdcast,
I see the live.
YouTube. But this time I made my precaution. I have my laptop next to me for such a case. And the laptop mouse is clicking. All right. We're almost there. Done. And now Crowdcast is rolling. Congratulations. And welcome everyone who's watching us on Crowdcast and on Facebook group. The live stream is set finally. No any technical difficulties. You guys on Crowdcast, if you want to share in the comment, you can hear us well, you can see us well. Let me know. And we are awaiting a comment from the audience. Can you hear us? Can you see us? And we're going live. And Facebook, I'm sure that is streaming well because we are just checking right now. So apology for few minutes that it's passed, but we are awaited talking with our brother Asil and sharing a lot of information. And of course, I'll also add me on the journey with Asil and learning with Asil also about strengthening our vessels, all the learning that we have collected and all the understanding that we have received through the channel and the guidance through the channel to strengthen these vessels for the highest capacity, highest strengths, so you can allow a higher energy to come through you and becoming a vessel for the divine, for the light, for the higher realms. Welcome, Asil. Welcome, brother.
Hello, George. Hi there. And hello, community from all over the world. It's a pleasure to be here on the phone with you. And I think between you and I, we have probably, many decades of experience of experimentation,
especially.
and and they're trying many things out. And maybe the things that we have found out that work for us may also work for others, and they don't have to try everything out that's out there.
Correct. Exactly. Many of these I know that because we have been together, me and Asil, and talking about all those learning, and I know his background, and we discuss many things. Many of them are part of the tradition, part of many growth and many tradition that they taught humanity. And the nice thing is that Asil went into the Taoism a little bit, and he has a lot of good knowledge about that. And I went into yoga, and we found that there is a lot of similarity, and these two aspects, they were part of this ancient tradition that they taught humanity how to strengthen this channel, including Kundalini, including the Chi, including all this. So, Asil, what do you think first? Discuss, sharing from which those traditions that's known, those practices, and then the part that you have discovered yourself and experiment, because I also experiment on myself.
Yes. So my curiosity about the different traditions and like the mystical aspects of spirituality has been there for a long time. I've always been very curious about how did these ancient yogis, as well as the ancient Taoist masters or Buddhist masters, achieve these really incredibly high states and almost like superhuman powers. I don't know if you have ever heard of the book of Masters of the Far East, the
I
ancient
heard
masters
for
of
it.
the Far East.
I heard also
And so
another couple of books
talks
also
about
they talk.
this.
Yeah.
It talks about the superpowers that the ancient yogis used to have. And Yogananda,
Yes.
Paramahansa Yogananda, writes about that in his autobiography of a yogi
That's
as well.
one of the famous one, Autobiography of Yogi. They call it Siddhis, which
Correct.
is the powers of the yogis.
Correct. So I've always been like super fascinated about it. And I wondered, how much of it is myth and how much of it is legend.
Correct.
And so I dove deeper and deeper into it. And we're talking about, 15, 16 years ago. And I was reading some books and I stumbled upon a video of a Taoist master who was in Asia, in Southeast Asia. And he was able to put a piece of paper on fire with his hands. And when I saw that, I thought, wow, this is mind-blowing.
Exactly.
This is really, really crazy. Like, how does a human being get to that level of energy production or energy
Direction.
focus, right? Direction, right? So there is like an ability to control the energy that's coming into his system or accumulate it so much, right? So that was one thing. And when I continued to go deeper, I found other Taoist masters that were also able to do really incredibly powerful things. And I found out there is once a year a secret gathering of Taoist masters where they basically measure up their skills and their powers.
Wow.
Right? Can you imagine?
I would love to go there and just watch.
And it's apparently super secret. I have not been there yet. I guess I haven't been invited. But
one day
it's secret because in China, when the Cultural Revolution started to happen, all of these Taoist masters went underground.
Correct.
Because a lot of them were being killed. These really powerful lineages were not allowed to exist or coexist in that time. So a lot of these lineages were really afraid that the wisdom and the knowledge and the power of getting to these states would get lost. Anyhow, so some of these lineages stayed alive, some knowledge got destroyed, some lineages ended, but there is some.
And some of them they
more
hide
and
it.
more.
Some of them they hide it on purpose because they have respect. It's not for show up. I saw a couple of video also very similar to what you saw with the person who was letting in fire, and it's documentary and been the guy lived with him a couple of days to make sure that he's really authentic. And I remember at the end of the video, his grandmaster who left visit him in the dream. He said, "What you are doing, this is not to show up."
Yes,
And then he
yes, yes,
stopped
yes,
the documentary immediately. It's very
yes.
valid point.
I remember that. So the key is these powers that arise in these ancient masters or like current masters. They're in yogic tradition. They're called siddhis,
Cities,
right? And you can read about it. Maybe it's written SID
double H, I think.
D
I can check it.
double DHI, I think.
Yeah,
CD. Sometimes they're called siddhas,
Sida,
but
cities, yes.
CD CDs are basically by
CSEIDDHI, yes.
yeah SIDDHI CD. So these CDs are a byproduct of the self-realization journey. So when we basically move on our self-realization journey to go faster and further up, then there is a byproduct that comes along with it, which is a specific power. And this power could be the power of foresight. You start to see things ahead of time. This power could be communication with other beings or other people beyond or through thought or through consciousness. These
Telepathy.
powers, telepathy, correct. These powers could be energy rising in your system that expresses itself like fire or warmth, or it expresses itself like electricity.
Electricity, yes, that is one of the famous one also, yes.
Very famous, right? Additional powers are, perception of self from beyond the ego or from beyond personality. So you start to see yourself as part of a bigger picture, right? The changing of perspective is
Just
another power that arises.
broader picture of your greater self rather than the small version of your limited self. Yes, of course. The observer.
So, um, what else? What else? What kind of other powers? Like healing powers, right?
Healing power,
So
of course. Which is some
releasing
of these
energy
people
that,
are interested, like healing powers, basically, right?
yeah, healing powers. Many are interested in those. But the key thing, I used to, when I started first off, I was so interested. I'm like, I want to figure out how electricity comes through my system and how I can, you know, like prove the world that this is real or
Exactly.
prove the world that I can do it. So there was a focus of, I want to get on this journey in order to achieve these CDs, right? The CD becomes the goal, which is not right. So there is something very much skewed that happens. It is driven from a place of, I want to get superpowers, and therefore I'm going to do whatever it takes to achieve the superpower, the CD that opens up. And of course, many of the teachers and masters I talked to, they would say, you know what, I'm going to give you one exercise and I want you to do this exercise for 7 years, and then you come back to me and I'll give you the next exercise. And
Long tradition that is it take their time.
long tradition.
So you stop all your ambitious of collecting power, so you know the real deal, which is you growing. Yeah.
Yes. So obviously that was not enough for me with regards to like one specific tradition. So I started to venture out into other traditions. And it's really interesting. This concept of CD or superpowers unfolding is valid in many other different traditions. You would also see these kind of CDs opening up in indigenous traditions or tribal traditions in Africa and South America. You will see them in many different traditions, and it's fascinating how they try to get to that place. Like that's always slightly a little different, right? And we're going to talk about this today. Like, how does one actually get on this journey of not just awakening, but you start recognizing that certain powers start opening up for you.
Correct. And there is a part of the
So,
channeling also that was on in our retreat, if you remember, was fully focusing on that when we are going through that strengthening our vessels and we go into self-realization, new layers, new levels of power start opening up on each stage. And that's a
correct.
thing. It become a reward of your achievement and give you strength to go to the next level. But was not the aim of it. The
Correct.
aim is you reaching self-realization.
Exactly. So the ultimate aim is reaching self-realization, and the many processes in between are almost like, I don't want to call them just tests because that's not fully correct. It's like milestones of awakening, right? So you reach a milestone and that will bring you like a newly available power, energy, or even CDs that then will allow you to do more with that. And the interesting thing is, in my journey, it has been very clear. The moment a new power opens up, the best thing to do with that is to apply it in order to serve others,
Correct.
right? It's never for selfish reasons. It's never for the ego. It's never for, some sort of self-confirmation, but it's really, you apply it for the benefit of humanity. You apply it for the benefit of the next person. And when you apply it well, you almost get instructions for the next level,
Exactly.
right?
It just start
You get
working for
instructions,
you for the next one.
right? So I think we can start talking about like foundational work. I think the most important element here is some people jump off really into the deep end. There is so much material available from Taoist masters, ancient texts that have been translated, like ancient practices and so on. We have almost too much information. So what happens is a lot of people jump into like the advanced practices without having a foundation, which is not just dangerous, but it's, I think, not very effective.
Correct. And they after a while they might feel that something happening but not in the strength way, and it just disappear, and then they after a while they get well disappointed that oh nothing happening, I felt a little bit and it disappear because their foundation have not established enough to build those
Yeah.
block properly.
Yes, I totally agree. So let's talk about foundation. Which part should we start with, George?
So let's divide it quickly for the audience so they understand a little bit. So the way that
Yes.
I see it, so you have physical body, was including your muscles, the nervous system, blood, all these kind of things that we are understanding as medical, right? And then we go to the next
Mm-hmm.
level, which is your energy channels, and they are very intertwined. So your energy channels really connected with your blood circulation, with your nervous system. So if you have really very very weak nervous system, then don't expect your energy channels are strong, because they are intertwined.
Mm.
They are affecting each other all the time.
Yes.
And then from there we can talk about, after those are the foundation, then we talk about okay, then that the foundation are strong, then you have your emotion and thought and and consciousness and your expanded state. But the foundation is this, your physical body literally with those important layers, and this energy that runs through that physical body. Both of them are, those are the foundation, I would say. If you have any comment about that, you can add. I think we can start with this so you can understand the difference between this one and what is about my positive emotion is good. Of course it's good, that's another level of on top of it. And then clear thinking, basically conscious thinking, and then consciousness, the continuation. But the first foundation, I would say, physical and energy structure of our physical body.
That's great. I think there is so much of the physical body that we still don't fully understand, and that we, almost like there is these hidden templates of the human body, of the human vessel, that are not fully established, and they're there, but it's like a piece, it's like a muscle that has never been worked before.
It's
right?
like
It's
a
waiting to
dormant,
be awakened.
yeah, dormant code, like similar to DNA, understanding, many other things. Some of the muscles are dormant, are there, but not being exercised, not strong enough. The nerves around it is not being functioned properly because no one
Sure.
touched it.
Yes. And also one thing that I want to add to muscles and nerves is the so-called fascia network.
Yes.
The fascia network that basically is connective tissue that goes mostly around the muscle itself, and it connects to the entire human body. What they found out is that the fascia is an electrical network, and it delivers an electrical impulse milliseconds before a muscle contracts.
Wow.
So it is really the aspect that delivers an important impulse that is relevant for bodily functions, but I think it is also relevant for the energetic functions of the body. We're talking about energy beyond, vitality energy. I'm talking about also spiritual energy that moves through the body.
It's very good, valid point. In the acupuncture, for example, when we go here, I haven't traveled to China but some of them are very
Yes.
good here in Dubai, for example. Whenever they give you advice or some guidance on your system and they check, they talk about the Chinese medicine that is different than the Western. They talk about the blood
Correct.
circulation as a part of your energy, literally. They literally connect it, that, oh, your blood circulation is not very tuned here in those vessels. This will affect your energy on many levels. It's not, for them, is blood is not just blood, is as if those energy
Life
channels,
force.
exactly, those
It's
life
life
force
force.
were running together with your physical body on the vessels, on the blood circulation, on the quality of it. They're always hand in hand.
Yes. Yes. So Chinese medicine is interesting in that sense that it depicts um, many different points in the body that is laid out as meridians and acupuncture points. And then on top of it, there are very special points in the body, they're like energy centers. One of the energy centers is just below the belly button. It's called the lower dantian. And the lower dantian is an energy center. It's about, our master used to say, 3 fingers below the belly button and 2 fingers inside from that point.
Mhm.
So it's about that point. Some people call it the sacral chakra, right? From the yogic
Yeah,
traditions.
but in the yogis, we have another name because many schools, in the way that I study many
Yes,
of them till to figure out
yes.
what they are talking about because they don't share the same names. I call it
Mm-hmm,
the navel center, which is literally below the navel, but it's navel center, and it's
mm-hmm,
called the energy storage. So I don't call it sacral
mm-hmm,
because sacral generally is about the sexual energy, and it's not the same. So for me, I divide
mm-hmm,
them because it's confusing if I say someone sacral and they study in
mm.
other school and the sacral for them is literally sexual energy. And it's not the same. It's not the sexual
Yes.
energy. It's the storage energy beneath, little bit beneath, as you mentioned, the navel center.
And there is a connection, right? There is a connection between the sexual energy and the life force vitality. That we're going to talk about what the connection is between sexual energy and the
Life force,
spiritual energy that
spiritual
we
energy.
utilize
Yes.
to do our work. So here is like one of the main aspects. Um, there is this life force, which is considered to be chi,
Mhm.
and there is a life force which is considered to be Shen, which is the life force used for spiritual journeying. Like basically it's the energy that allows for your consciousness to lift off and go to places and come back. So that's stored in the third eye, interestingly enough, probably somehow connected to the pineal gland,
Absolutely.
right? And then there is also something that in Chinese medicine or in Taoist tradition, they call Jing, which is a creative life force. And this is the creative life force in order to create life, right? It's basically the energy that's stored in the ovaries, in the, yes, and as well as in the semen of the men.
Yes.
Right. So there is that Jing life force. So it's really fascinating. There is like many ancient texts about this life force and how to accumulate it and how to retain it. Now, if we have daily functions continuously working or maybe even overworking, what happens is we eat food, and this food that we eat is immediately transformed into energy to bodily functions and to mental functions. So we continuously use, we eat, we use, we eat, we use, we eat, we use. There is never a really conscious accumulation of that energy, right? Which is why in most traditions, they make you sit in meditation for the first 2 years, basically not giving you any other exercise because there is no fuel.
Store.
Right?
Expand your storage of energy. Exactly.
Correct. So they're saying you need to accumulate fuel before we can do anything with it. So this accumulation of fuel happens in multiple different ways. And now we can dive a bit into this,
Yes.
right? Into the foundational aspect of physical body and energetic body. The accumulation of fuel or chi or ki, and the Japanese call it ki, and it's the center that I was talking about,
and the
or
yoga, they
than
call it prana,
prana in yogic
mana
traditions.
in other language also.
Correct. So in Zen Buddhism, they call that center the hara.
Hara, correct.
So they would, until there is fire in the hara, there is no real sense in giving you like the next exercises or the next practices. You have to have that fire in the belly. You have to have that fire underneath the belly button. So maybe some of the people that are watching can tell us if they have ever felt that, you know, through extensive practice or through extensive accumulation of energy or meditation, that there was like a fire or even a contraction that's happening just below the belly button, right? So I'd say I'll give a couple things on my end, what I believe are incredibly powerful ways to accumulate this energy and really not just retain, but really continue to grow and also compress, because it
which is this very
you don't want
important.
it. Yes, you're building it and then you're densifying in it. There is an aspect of compression that happens in that spot under the belly button. And I believe that this energy spot is almost like it's a nuclear fusion reactor. It is maybe the most powerful force on the planet, and it's in you. In every single human being, there is a nuclear reactor. And the master that I used to work with, he would say, it is the size of a rice corn, but has the power to create and destroy an entire world.
Wow.
That's what he would say, right? So that is the potential and the capacity that it carries.
Well, in some of the Taoism that they teach a little bit about the sexual energy and tantric, or sexual Taoism basically, like Mantequilla, for example. I think he simplified maybe
Yes.
less. He mentioned that when the fire light up and the water, which is also comes with the emotion and sexual energy, and when they come together, it's like he called it like a steam engine. So drop of water
Yes.
that can create a huge amount of steam, and if they compress that steam, it's like powerful steam. So that's
Yes.
his simplified version, I would say. So the same concept also.
So that's totally accurate. So Mantequilla gives a lot of exercises away. I think personally, I think a little too early for most people, like having advanced practices before they have a proper foundation. I think it's a little bit tricky and maybe dangerous, but that's my personal and humble opinion.
Yeah,
So
I think
the
also he has some
fire, once the
retreats.
fire
So
builds,
yeah, maybe in the retreat,
yeah,
someone's
yeah, yeah.
taking those and put them
It's
outside.
so the fire, to build the fire, I think there's a couple things I personally do, right? Most importantly is having a lifestyle where you can rest enough. If you're continuously draining your energy, there is it's like a bottomless pit. You keep on putting energy into something that just drains and
Training.
drains and drains, and I was in that space. I used to work a lot of hours and I was doing practice at the same time, and I could never get the energy to accumulate enough. Only when I would take time off, and I would take maybe a 10-day period or 2-week period to really focus only on meditation, then I would start to feel that fire build up in my belly, right? And so the key is rest enough. Make sure that your lifestyle does not drain you continuously. If there is a continuous drain of your energy, you can eat as much as you want, you can meditate as much as you want. It will never fully accumulate to the point where you have fuel for spiritual awakening processes. Do you have something to add to that?
Yes, here I have a very important something to add, especially for the people, because I do session one to one, and I hear always story about this. The excuse of, oh, we don't have time, oh, I have too much work, there is things in my life. And every time I have this excuse from my student or a friend, so basically I give them the most famous known, I think, from Buddha. It's a saying from Buddha saying, meditate, if I remember it correctly, meditate a 10 minutes a day, let's say. And if you don't have time, meditate half an hour or 1 hour. So basically, if
Yes.
you don't have time, that means it's even you have to meditate more, because the more you meditate, you can change your reality so you can have time, so you can practice. And if you
That's
keep,
great.
yeah, if you keep saying, well, those outside are more important than me, you giving your power for
Yes.
those outside, and then you will never change them. And the more you have power, you can actually change them, basically. And this is a very
Yes.
famous, I always say to everyone, and because the mind will come, but it's important, I don't have, my work is 12 hours, 6 hours. I used to work in corporate. I have sometime work till 6 a.m. In that project, when I have work till 6 a.m., I will decide my rest to meditate in it. I will meditate
Mm.
even this 10 minutes before my rest and focus in my meditation. I don't want to stay till 6 a.m. My next project, I have more time so I can practice more. Now I'm
Mm-hmm.
fueling my energy and my reality so it change, so I can have more time for me and my practice. When you have this mindset, you are always on top of your reality, basically, of what you are choosing in your life, having more time to practice or giving your power to reality.
Yes. That's great. That's great. And as hard as it sounds, but one of the masters I used to work with, he would, I'm not sure if it was a joke, if he was serious about it, but he would say, if you're meditating anything less than 45 minutes, you might as well not to. It doesn't make sense. Like, he would say 45 minutes is the minimum. Like, you do it, then you will start to see effects. If you do less than that, it's just really just to calm yourself down and get into a feeling of balance. but it's not for spiritual awakening processes.
Correct. You're taking only
Very interesting.
the shallow surface benefit of it, which is okay. I calm myself. I'm
Correct.
breathing nice. My brain is relaxed. Now, after this, actually, the real spiritual work happens. So now you need to go beyond this.
Correct. So rest enough. Make sure that your lifestyle allows for enough time for the accumulation of internal energy and it doesn't drain you continuously, right? If you are draining energy, then you will always be depleted and eventually you will burn out, which is why people have burnouts. I've had burnouts. I know what it's like. It's not fun, and but they're great teachers. Burnouts. In terms of food, and we're gonna move into a bit of nutrition and supplementation, right? What you intake into your body is a very important aspect of creating the fuel internally. So again, in this particular Taoist tradition that I learned, there was always three ways to get qi, which is the life force, right? One was through food and through whatever you intake. The other one was earth qi, which is the qi that you get from your environment, from nature, from the earth, right?
Correct.
There's a lot of meditations that allow you to breathe in the nature into your system or to connect your root to the root of the earth and to the core of the earth and to draw from that. So some of these exercises you're probably very familiar with.
Of course,
George.
our community, if you guys are watching, if you are not part of our community, contact me. I will share with you our morning practice and our heart resonance. And they both of them, they have the big part at the beginning, grounding and rooting and extending your root and taking energy from Mother Earth. It's very, very important. When I start learning about this in more depth, it changed my energy.
Mm-hmm.
And all our community, they practice, I hope, daily, grounding and opening their root. Yes, continue.
That's a key aspect, right? So, and the third type of qi, when one is more an advanced practitioner, which is heavenly qi. So it's the qi that you receive from the universe. So there's three ways to collecting internal energy. We're going to start with the simplest, eating food or supplementation.
That's
things that come in
what they do definitely every day. If they are practitioner or not practitioner, you eat. So let's focus on that.
Yes. So we were given a system that naturally knows it needs life force to survive, and the minimum that you have to do is you have to eat something, right? And it's very simple. You eat, you continue to produce energy, and you're alive, and so on and so forth. But now, how do you eat in a way that your body is not just optimally nourished, but it also starts to accumulate like vital force, vitality, in such a way that spiritual awakening processes can be started or fueled, right?
Supported by. Can I add a small comment here quickly about
Of
this?
course.
So basically, one of the way that I want everyone to understand food when it comes to our body and we break it into metabolism and turn it to micronutrients and going in the body, and either glucose or fat where the body burn them into energy, literally to electricity that goes into your muscles and all the organs to function. But if you look at it, is we are converting those condensed nutrients from this plant or animal, which is both of them accumulating life force, and we turning them back into a life force within us, which is electricity. Not only electricity, they can actually enhance your own electromagnetic process of your system. So basically, this is not the most sufficient way to do it, but very essential. Right now, we still use it. Our body still require nutrients from this because imagine it like an engine, and this is a basic engine, and then you can improve that engine. So imagine you have a car and you're putting now the normal diesel, but the engine run on diesel. Now you need to improve this engine and put a better diesel. What kind of superfood and how you process it, how to digest it, and how you can turn it into more efficient way for this engine to process. And then after that, now you have the strength in your engine to turn it to a next level of energy, which is what you mentioned, Asil. So life force from heavenly or spiritual energy, or even
Mhm.
accessing another level of life force without intake, sun, earth, as you mentioned. So gradually this vessel, or us, starting from improving the diesel and the engine and improving the process of breaking this diesel, and then this engine improved to start taking instead of diesel, gasoline, for example, petrol and gasoline. So when improving the fuel now and improving the engine, and then after that make it, as you mentioned also, nuclear reactor. So
Mm.
gradually you are building foundation till you are able to reach a nuclear reactor in your system. A nuclear reactor, as Azir was
Yes.
mentioning, is this internal chi that's flowing with this such a capacity. But the base has to be there in order to reach it.
And the base has to work in the most optimal way
Correct.
first. So, how do we get to optimal operations in our bodies, right? There are certain ways that we can measure optimal health. And one is a very detailed blood profile. Like if you have access to a good doctor, you can get a very detailed blood profile done, and they will be able to give you an understanding of what your current levels are. The second thing is doing something like a DNA test. I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories that people think, if I give my DNA to the governments, they know all my weaknesses and so on and so forth. I'm always thinking at it from a positive framework. Like I get information for it, and it's actionable information for my life. A DNA test is not just to figure out, oh, which country are my parents from, and so on and so forth. A DNA test can actually, if you deliver it to the right companies, like for example, there is a company in the US, I can share it later, where you send the raw data of your DNA test, and they will give you an entire outline of which DNA markers will create certain deficiencies in your system. So they'll say, you will naturally, in my case, you will naturally be tendency towards low copper. So you have to make sure that your copper levels are adequate. Or they will say, you will naturally have low B vitamins. So you have to make sure, and you can compare this with your blood profile. So you'll see in your blood profile if your DNA profile is matching what's happening in your blood, which is very interesting,
Very
right?
interesting. Yes.
It's a very powerful measure. The other thing is in our bodies, more organisms in our bodies are not ourselves.
Correct. That's very
So
important.
there is trillions
Trillion,
and
not million, trillion.
trillions of other beings that are in ourselves that are operating here, right? Anything from bacteria
To small things
to
living there,
small things
having
living
their
there.
life on the skin and
Like
everywhere.
basically they are cohabitating
Yes.
and they're part of our processes. And this is basically called biome, right? The biome, it's written biome. The biome of a human body includes all the operations of the gut and the digestive intestinal system. And there is very detailed biome tests that basically will be able to tell you
What?
if the spectrum of your biome is complete or not, if there is like missing parts in your biome. And this is also something that you can optimize for.
Correct. This is if the audience, if you want to compare it, it's what we understand probiotic. The same concept is your gut health and who's living in your gut to support you, and those are pro. They support you, support immune system, digestion, absorbing nutrients, and some of them they are essential to produce certain vitamin the body cannot produce without those bacteria that living in your gut.
So yes, and so there is this biome test, there is a blood profile test, and there's a DNA test. with these three, you're going to be actually fairly advanced in terms of understanding the inner operations of your body.
Correct.
And I think that personally, I believe this is a investment worthwhile making.
And for the synchronicity, I just bought DNA test online. I was
Great.
searching for it, and I have the pack. I just put it, and I asked them to where country I have to send. I'm going to send it very soon and get my DNA test back. And they exactly mention what you said. They will tell me the weakness in my DNA toward what potential low absorption or low need intake on the minerals, on the vitamins, or even sensitivity toward caffeine, sensitivity toward certain nutrients.
Correct.
So I know how to adjust my intake according to my DNA.
That's fantastic. So I see that we're kind of running out of time, but I mean, we're 45 minutes in,
I
so
mean,
we're good,
this
actually.
kind of talk is
Yeah,
always very interesting, and 1 hour and a half is not enough, but
sure. But we'll try to squeeze in as much as we can. So, and work with a specialist that can assist you in giving you and working with you on um, certain types of supplements. And supplementation, some people say, well, if there is something low in my system, there could be another reason. It could not just be the DNA, but it could be another reason that my lifestyle is not in a certain way. Or there is the reason that our food is not as nutrient rich as it used to be because the soils are not as nutrient rich as they used to be. So
and the
there is that
practice how
argument.
they're producing it also, and what they give it food for this plant to grow also is not the same as
Correct.
the natural organic farm, natural farm or countryside like before.
And not everyone has access to organic food, right?
Correct.
Not everyone has access to naturally raised